Hey everyone, this is Gary Kay, and I want to welcome you to the industry's first AV Cloud Summit. I hope this is going to be something that we do all the time because here's the thing. This is an emerging market. The truth of the matter is this hasn't been figured out yet. Every manufacturer's kind of doing their own, I shouldn't say every, the manufacturers who are forward thinking are doing their own versions of the cloud. They're figuring out how they want to use the cloud. Now, let's kind of dumb it down a little bit because that's how I am. What is the cloud? The cloud is really just simply a fancy word for all the computers connected together in the internet, right? Which are just, global computers. So what is the AV cloud, or, what will become cloud AV? Well, we have a need to connect all of our devices together for the purposes of managing those devices. And the more of these devices we're putting in that are network, the better at managing we can become. But it also means we're having to manage more of these devices, which becomes complicated. And then we have our customers who are using their own management platforms for all the other systems that they have in the business. So for example, maybe they're managing their security system or HVAC. And then we're telling them we want them to manage the Zoom rooms and Teams rooms, where we're offering that as a capability. We have our own software interfaces. They have their own software interfaces. And right now they don't talk together. But there are some solutions to this. Xyte is the sponsor for today's AV Cloud Summit, and they're the perfect company to be the sponsor for this because they make a unified cloud management platform. Now, if we jump forward beyond just managing this stuff and we talk about the future, we're talking about content distribution across the cloud, right? When we're able to send content, we're able to retrieve the content in any room, in any location, in any format we want on the fly. How do we do that? And ultimately, what's going to manage that? And then finally, that would take us to an eventual future that would allow us to sell AV as a system, potentially, for those clients that want to move from CapEx to OpEx buying opportunities, because we'll have that capability once everything's connected to the cloud and we have a way to manage it. But truth is, this is the beginning. We're literally, we got to go 10 steps. We're at step 1.5. Maybe Eric Snyder might argue we're at step 2, and Scott Walker might argue we're at step 1, and Pam Hoppel might hope that we're at step 4 as a manufacturer. And that is our panel today, in addition to Ron Sclaver. I'll introduce everyone in just a moment. But first, for those of you who are new to this platform, my name is Gary Kay. I am with the Rave Agency. I want to welcome you to our launch platform, which is our both virtual and hybrid events platform we've had since 2019. And for those of you who want to ask the panel questions, just right there on the right side of me is a Q&A window where you could just type in questions. Below me is a polling box, and we're going to take polls all day long during this session, or for the next hour or so. And we want you to answer those polls. Those polls will give us information as to where we are in this cloud world, and will also reward you for participating. In addition, speaking of rewards, we're going to actually give you CTS credit for this. So you'll get that automatically. It'll happen somewhere between 10 and 15 days from today. You don't have to do anything to get it except stay online today. You have to stay on the entire time because that's what Avixa requires. It's not my requirement. It's what Avixa requires, and they do the certification. And so they want to make sure that you're actually online for the event. So we'll send the certificates to you. Everything will happen automatically. Thanks to Avixa for having this certification program. And thank you to Xyte for sponsoring today's event. Below the polling is all of you. You can see each other. You can communicate with each other. You can ask each other questions. We'll be watching both locations for questions to make sure that this is an opportunity for you to ask our panel questions as well. So don't forget that you have the ability to participate. This is not going to be a one-way thing. We want to hear what you have to say. We want you to challenge us. We want you to bring up your challenges as you look at this as an emerging opportunity. And I want to especially thank all of you for joining us, taking the time out of the middle of your day to be part of the industry's first Cloud AV Summit. So I want to bring our panel on, and I want to talk to our panel about everything that we have to talk about today. And I first want to have a chance to have everyone introduce themselves. I want to start with you, Pam Hoppel, as the president of Legrand AV. First off, you've been in the industry now not quite a year, but I'd love to hear your perspective on what it's been like to be in our industry, and introduce yourself at the same time.
Thank you. Well, yeah, if you recall, I think you were my first interview when I first came on. So
I was
December.
honored.
Yeah, exactly. The honor, the honor. Yeah. So I'm Pam Hopple, president of Legrand AV, and it has been almost a year. So I came from plumbing, HVAC, fire, and security. What I found is there are a number of similarities. I mean, business is business, and paths to market, especially when you deal with installers and distributors and the different type of integration elements. Very common. Related to this topic, I think probably what's been most similar is the impact of some of these macroeconomic factors. Labor is increasing, securities requirements are increasing from a technology perspective. All of that super relevant to the industry and to what we're talking about today. So thanks for having me.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And you're one of the first manufacturers to actually adopt the cloud. And we're going to talk about that. And we actually have a case study on how you're doing that we're actually going to show a little bit later today. And that's important because if the manufacturers don't adopt this, it's never going to actually happen. We got to get the manufacturer adoption as quickly as possible. Scott, would you agree with me? Introduce yourself and tell me what you think.
Yeah, 100%, Gary, and you kind of nailed it in your intro. It's kind of the Wild West right now. I'm Scott Walker, president and founder of Waveguide. Maybe opposite of Pam, I've been doing this 35 years. So maybe like Eric and Gary, we can count the decades and the epochs that we lived through in AV, from analog to AV over category cable to networked AV, and now to this cloud era, and then eventually to AI era and all that. While I'm a panelist today, I'm also interested in the discussion. I think it's something we're all grappling with and working with our clients on, because ultimately the client has to own the largest part of this responsibility, but we can set the table every step of the way with the solutions that we're designing, that we're integrating, that we're manufacturing, and that we're operating. And I wear two hats today. Waveguide is both an independent design consultant for the last 28 years. For the last 20 years, we've also been in AV operations, what we call technology hospitality. So we're running headquarters for a lot of the big Fortune 500 companies out there. So we wear those two hats. It's actually about 70% of our business is carrying and feeding for these systems every day in the field.
Yeah, you're in a unique position. We go from manufacturer to designer to integrator. Eric Snyder, you know, interestingly enough, you're probably one of the, if not the most respected technologist in our industry that works for an integrator. Can you introduce yourself for those 4 people that don't know who you are?
Sure. I'm Eric Xyte. Worked with the group over at Xyte and through our large growth that we've done over the years. What's interesting for us is that I was very technical, but I had a great mentor in John Laughlin who's like, "Hey, man, you know what? Don't try to predict the future, a year out. Everyone who's trying to predict that is wrong anyway. What's real important is stay close to the clients and predict 6 weeks out or predict 6 months out, right? So, and that way you can be very agile in this environment. And I think this discussion is very good for that, right? And you kind of can put a lean philosophy behind it. And what we can bring to the table is that we're an incredibly diverse company. We had to change our name from Conference Technologies to CTI because we're doing everything from stadiums. We're corporate on site at some of the world's largest, players out there. So we're a very diverse company with live events in all kinds of markets. So maybe can kind of bring some insights to the table here on more verticals than just the conference rooms, even though we do a ton of those. But there's a lot of stuff going on in broadcast, a lot of stuff going on in some other areas too that actually tie into this conversation.
And let's be honest, you're one of the fastest growing integrators in the world. You've had record sales this year, and I don't think a whole lot of companies can make that claim. And then finally, to end user, you're the person, Ron, who's got to figure out how to keep this stuff continuing to work. That's the key. We can make it work when we first put it in, but your team, because EY, you're not the kind of company we're going to be able to come in and out of and just jump over to someone's computer and load a new software tool on. You're the kind of company it's going to have a very secure, we are in control network to basically protect not just your employees, but also your clients. So you got to keep this stuff operating after Scott designed it and Eric put it in. So introduce yourself and talk about that.
Sure, thanks. Hi, I'm Ron Sclaver. I am what only a Big Four accounting and consulting firm could call the global lead for the in-office meeting experience, which is a fancy way of saying AV services for EY. And Gary alluded to our scale. We've got about 14,000 conference rooms in 750 offices around 160 countries. So there's a lot of stuff floating around our estate.
That is a lot.
And monitoring and managing it, or even knowing what's where, is very, very important to us because it's a lot of money. I am here today representing the end user perspective because having done a few of these webinars, we learned something right along with everybody else. And so I'm very interested today in hearing just how aligned the manufacturer, designer, and integrators' perspectives are with my needs and my ideas as a customer, because ultimately it's my budget.
Yeah.
I have to spend it wisely, which is not an easy thing to do sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see how aligned we might really be.
Well, I'm going to actually throw the first question to you because you're the one that's ultimately, you already have cloud management systems because you're already doing it on the IT side. We're trying to do this on the AV side. So I want to kind of, to put everything in context, what does the cloud mean to you from the AV side, Ron?
So it's more than just monitoring and management. So UC is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Okay, and more and more the UC platforms are starting to deliver features that were traditionally found on devices. So what's happening is you're starting to see certain features delivered at the edge, smart camera, a PC on a rack in the corner of the room, or out in the cloud itself. And so as an end user, what we're working out is what really belongs at the edge, what can I manage in the room, and what can I push all the way out? So to me, the cloud is essentially a delivery mechanism for some, but not all of what I need to do in the room or about the room.
I know that part of that is going to be a single interface, like best case world, Scott, a single interface that allows you to provide your clients with the ability to manage everything. And one day that everything would also include what they're currently managing with whatever platforms they have right now. Maybe that's smart building platform management system. Isn't that the vision?
It is, and it needs to play by the, kind of grown-up IT security rules and look like something they're familiar with, not something that we cobbled up in cowboy land over here. And it does sort of need to be one cloud tool to rule them all would be the ideal situation, because it can take us 18 months to get IT to approve a device to go on the network that they haven't previously approved, and the project may be open by then. So we got to get way ahead of that curve. The best practice for decades in this industry was get the systems to opening day and then freeze that in amber so we don't wake up the velociraptors and just leave it alone. We can't do that in this UC era, certainly not with the UC compute device. We'd be hamstringing our client to 3 year ago, technology and feature sets, and we need to keep the security update, happening. So that freezing in amber right now isn't the case with the UC compute, but it still pretty much is with the peripheral equipment today because it's such a mess to try to, make that happen in an orderly manner. One thing we as designers should be hung out to dry if we don't do is work with our end user clients to simplify, have as few different manufacturers as humanly possible across the enterprise so that Eric only has 5 cloud tools today to deal with, not 50. So that's one of the mitigating things we can do as the industry and the manufacturers maybe start to align their tools into more of an open platform that we can put under one pane of glass.
Well, Pam, your company with your leadership has become a bellwether for the rest of the industry to follow. Like, you're actually there's a couple of handfuls of companies that have gone all in on the cloud. One of those is Legrand AV and Legrand AV, and you are a glue company. And I know maybe you don't like this term. We talked about this when I was first introduced to you. You're the company that kind of holds the industry together. You're used behind the scenes and all this stuff that we see in front of house. What are the challenges, or what should say is what is your strategy with cloud specifically? And how has that changed since you've started to integrate the cloud with Middle Atlantic as an example?
Yeah, I'm so disappointed in myself that I don't have a Jurassic Park reference, because there's amber and glue and velociraptors. It feels like an opportunity here. No, our strategy, very simply, me coming in from the outside, this integration and this cloud opportunity feels like the biggest opportunity for Legrand AV in particular, just because of the broad portfolio of products that we have and are what may be a unique value proposition for us. So there's a selfish element to that. But beyond that, very simply, we will win accounts with cloud connectivity. And so for me, if we can increase the value, you mentioned some of the MAP products. If we can increase our value in those RackLink products, then we're going to do that in any way, shape, or form that we can. So the second piece, I alluded to some of the drivers on the macroeconomic side that were across industries. For us, as we were really building and solidifying this strategy, we look at what are the new problems that we need to solve going forward. And, Scott, you and Ron both alluded to these a little bit. We've got enhanced security issues. We've got the decision-making and where that control has to be. We have to make it as easy as possible, because it's so much more expensive to employ the management of those devices. So how is that problem something that we can solve as a manufacturer? It to me makes it even more important to have this cloud integration strategy.
And in fact, Legrand has adopted Xyte's platform, which is really important. We're actually going to do a platform tour with the guy who knows the platform better than any human alive right now, and that's Andrew Gross, which you'll meet a little bit later today. So I want you to stay tuned for that, because it's going to be important for you to kind of understand like how this actually works and how it's going to work in the future. But Eric, I'm going to direct the next question to you, because you have a very tough job of deciding when to go all in and sort of how to connect these things together, because you're going to be responsible for when the customer says, is this going to work? You got to be responsible for responding yes. So what are the challenges with the current state of the cloud monitoring and management in the industry? And as a systems integrator, what's the biggest change you're looking for from where we are today to where we want to be in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we still got like you were saying, some, zero trust networks, right? I mean, what's amazing is that Microsoft put more things on a client's network than anything that's ever been done, right? No. And then all of a sudden, well, we want to do Teams, and then we're figuring it out. And when it comes from what's interesting, when it comes from a C-level decision for culture, then it floats through the IT department, there's ways to make it happen then, right? And there's a whole conversation there, but seeing it across the industries with the cloud, seeing the marketing side of doing everything to the cloud and seeing reality a little bit, there's a little bit of disconnect there in certain sectors. But the possibilities like Dante Cloud, I know it's not a product that we're really talking about here, but I mean, basically I can send audio up faster and get to a satellite, go do Patrick's voice for the hockey game and come back, or a Marvel superhero in the broadcast world. That's not possible without the cloud, right? So there's enormous opportunity, but yet at the same time, it's got to be, and Ron can answer this better, we're going to be using a lot of edge devices to get to that cloud, and how we want to manage those edge devices to get out there, I think. And then what's everyone's tolerance? And even if they have the right network set up for it, because there's also just in basic network setup right now, I mean, you got switches out there that are being web managed that can't even do QoS, right? I mean, really locking stuff down and going to the standard, which is great for security, and then how much openness the client's going to do, I think is really a sit down, have a conversation with with each client and figure out what the tolerance is going to be for it.
But I want to shout out to Ron for having the best branding on the screen by far. It's all the shame. As a
I got a
branding
little.
person, I feel completely embarrassed. I do see your small reference there, Scott. It's very professionally done. I do appreciate that. But Pam, you and I got to do a better job
I
here.
know.
I want to throw out the next question to Ron. How important is this at this moment, Ron? Cloud management, cloud platform, or standardization of the cloud in our industry? How important it is to you right now as an end user?
So on the one hand, hugely important because AV is IT. Anybody who doesn't believe it has their head too far into the sand. Yes, I've had that argument with lots of people over the years. But if AV is in fact IT, and the IT operating model is all about standards, and it's all about uptime, and it's all about remote support, remote monitoring, then the only way you're going to be able to do that is through the cloud. Now, the manufacturers have to ask themselves, though, what is it this end user, the enterprise, really wants to do? I've got one display manufacturer trying to sell me a display and talking about their cloud management platform and how we can set every display in the world remotely so that EY yellow behind me is EY yellow. Well, on the one hand, that's really cool. On the other hand, I couldn't care less. I got bigger fish to fry than that. And what I really want to know is heartbeat monitoring. It is that simple. When you're talking about this kind of scale, just tell me if it's down. If I can reboot it remotely, fabulous. But if not, let me know. I got to call somebody in the office and have them run into the room and take a look what's going on. So cloud is hugely important, but keep it in perspective. What are we really trying to accomplish?
Yeah, everyone was shaking their head when you said that. That's at the base level. That's what we need. But we got to go a little bit better than that. And I think from my perspective, I feel like we need an open standard. I feel like we need to have that connectivity available to everyone. And that's why I really like the Xyte platform. I wrote about this in my crystal ball at the beginning of the year. I kind of accidentally discovered Xyte. I mean, they've been to InfoComm, but I hadn't really spent any quality time with them. But once I got a tour, I understood, okay, yeah, they're definitely looking out for themselves because they make a platform, but their platform is open and compatible with any other platform you might already have. So for example, if you're using Epson's management platform, they can connect to it. If you're using any brands, for that matter, a cloud system or remote management system, they can connect to it so that they have a single pane of glass sort of layered on top of everything. Eric, I'm guessing at a minimum, that's the standard that you want so that you can remove all those other panes of glass and have just one.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everyone's looking for a single pane of glass. What's interesting though is how it's going to be consumed. Does that make sense? A great question back to Ron would be, hey, Ron, would you pay for that service? Or if it's included in this particular product, would you buy it, right? I mean, that's kind of the question.
I want him to answer that actually, because Ron, would it be better to bundle it with the product or sell it separately?
So it depends. Sorry. Worst possible answer. But to answer it though, let me build on a point that Gary made just a moment ago. Right? There's a lot of disincentive for the manufacturers to have open standards. Separate conversation, another webinar, but they're there. Okay. If I have no choice but to have multiple platforms, then what I really want is some layer across the top that lets me tie it all together.
Interoperability.
Yeah, as a component of it, but simply visibility and reporting. And maybe that's not just a pane of glass to see what's happening, but maybe that's my entryway to go into something like an Xyte, for instance, as the way to get down to, say, XIO or Lens or Sync or Direct or whoever. And manage the device through the platform that I'm forced to have, but don't make me train everyone how to use 6 or 7 or 8 different platforms. Give me one that can lay across the top. Would I pay for that as part of the device? Whew. I don't know, because our estate is, in quotes, standards driven. We're trying to buy the same manufacturers, but there is exception after exception after exception. It might be easier for me to just worry about it by the room. It depends on the functionality available. It's not an easy answer.
I
Gary?
can tell
Sorry.
Eric wants to say something. Go ahead, Eric.
No, that's right. Even though you're paying, you may not know directly you're paying for it, but Dante, for example, do you look for devices with Dante? Do you look for devices with NDI, right? So, you're saying your standard, I mean, not an open standard, but it is a standard that you can manage, right? So would you go look for devices with that? They're going to embed that cost in there somewhere, right? Does that help define or clarify that question a little bit?
Yeah. And the answer, broadly speaking, would be yes, where possible. Because by trade, I'm an IT guy.
Sure.
We're all about standards. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Pam. A lot of manufacturers in the industry invented their own cloud. Basically, started from scratch and came up with their own cloud, invented out of nowhere, and really, it may have just simply been they knew they had to have it, but didn't know where to go get it. You, as a very big brand, decided to partner with Xyte and to have an open platform, basically, by doing that. Has that benefited you yet, or how's that benefited you, and what's been the feedback from the customers that are adopting it?
Yeah. So for me, and by the way, if you do have the manufacturer's discussion on the pros and cons of this, I want in, because I have some strong opinions on that. For me, I think it's a very natural progression of technology strategy, if you will. I think everybody goes in. I think of my own, personal phone and app use. I don't know if anybody else gets really annoyed at when you go to shop somewhere, you download a new, like personal lock or device in your home, and now you've got 15 different apps controlling everything. I mean, this is a personalized version of what our customers are experiencing. And so you can take one of two routes. You can say, I am the leader and I believe that I can provide value that is unique in this app. I'm going to use that as an example. Or I can aggregate with someone and let them provide that value and bolt on and leverage them as an extension of our business. So for me, this is a matter of focus. I look at my team and we have unbelievable engineers, and they are really good at what they do. If I need to build capabilities to do what Xyte does, as an example, I would be starting. First of all, I would probably be trying to steal their engineers to begin with. Which, what's the use in that? I don't want to make anybody mad. So we don't want to do that. But also, that's not my core capability. I want to really stick and focus in the manufacturing space where I can excel and where my engineering talent is, and then leverage partners. And if I think about where the technology is going on, the evolution, with the initial statement, think about artificial intelligence. The smarter this technology kind of broadly gets, the more specialization is going to happen. So partnerships inevitably are going to have to expand. We're all, as manufacturers, going to have to be more open to that. And it's not just this kind of cloud platform. It's everything going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting perspective, because I think that what you have realized as a manufacturer is that having unique, differentiated, and only available by you features isn't necessarily going to be the winner in the future. The future is going to be the relationships and the compatibility and the collaboration, I think, is what's going to win out in the long run. Scott, Anthony Paoletti's watching this, and he said, great panel. So you got to be careful how you answer this question. But I want to answer the question, exactly the same question, from the perspective of a designer.
Well, I think, having lived through all these epochs of the AV industry, we all basically built our own tools up to a point to solve the puzzle we were handed. right? So at Waveguide, we built our own cloud-based tools to be able to assess 1,500 rooms, which we just did for a big Fortune 500 company, in 3 weeks, and put all that into a giant database. We needed to create something out of nothing. If you're a control system programmer, you need a way to deploy 400 rooms and push code. And if you're Ron, you want to know the heartbeat, and you want to know when something has gone belly up. And wearing my operator hat, because 70% of my employees are out there running these facilities, we joke a bit that, you know, there's long stretches of nothing to see here, all systems go, spiked with moments of sheer terror, usually right before the all hands or the board meeting or the shareholders meeting, with, wait, what just happened? And so it's not that we need a, you know, joint chiefs of whatever command and control 24/7, but when the sparks start flying, it'd be great to go, what changed in my environment in the last 24 hours? Oh, I had a power outage at 2 in the morning. I bet the reboots, okay, I can get my head around that. And there's always going to be a human element, because you don't necessarily want the machines to just take over and do the thing that they think is the fix, because it might be, okay, we need to move this meeting to another room, or I just need to bring in a new display and have the show go on. So having that awareness very quickly is super important. Like I said, from a design standpoint, it's simplicity. From an operation standpoint, it's tell me what happened that changed in my world when the sparks start flying.
It's an interesting observation, and I've noticed, for example, just even 2 days ago, Logitech introduced a system that allows you to automatically, it can tell when a meeting's ended earlier or somebody abandoned a meeting, so a room's available. But the problem is you have to only use Logitech equipment, so all those rooms that don't have it are basically not part of the system. So Eric, because of that, integrators have built their own cloud management platforms. It's no secret that some of the larger ones have built their own. What do you think about that? Do you think that's going to survive, or how would you compare what we have with Xyte to that?
So that's kind of where I was you know, I'm talking to the IT professionals, right? You know, I was at a very large one that's IT is totally in control of the AV, right? So they're asking me, because they love what Microsoft has done with the UC room, right? So we go back to here going, wow, the AV integration industry needs to know about it, you know, Intune, right? So for example, they're just like, well, just do what Intune does, like what we're doing on here. I can tell if the computer's on. I can tell if there's a heartbeat, right? So hearing about conversations, I'm not trying to force MDET down anyone's throat, sitting here, wow. So what happens if Microsoft is now the remote management for it at a base level of a heartbeat for something? It's in a zero trust environment. What if there is MDET there, right? All the platforms right now, because, you know, we came into 2023, SaaS, actually, this is the first year it didn't grow going into this year. It actually flattened out, and it was only an 8% rise overall, and there's consolidation going on. So does the AV industry take a page? You know, I've created all this here. It does more. Does that make sense? It can do a lot more. I can go in and upload firmware, but that's where my ears are opening right now, and kind of trying to listen to what Ron and everyone else is like. Do I really want to do all this stuff? Or am I willing to pay for it and get a complete package? Because I'm going to buy it maybe on the licensing thing, is what I was hearing most clients do. And they're like, hey, find me something like Dante, and I'll just make sure all the devices are Dante enabled. That's the way I'll consume it, or whatever. Or do we got the big guys walking in the room now that the IT guys are very comfortable with, that might be owning the space, and we need to then look at how we address them, and then how we can add on additional features that Microsoft's not going to be ever interested in doing, right? So I know that was a big, complicated ball of mess right there, but that's kind of how we're really listening right now and trying to see which way everyone's wanting to do. And I don't even know if everyone wants to go one way, but I know they're very happy with those pro portals right now, and they're very happy with them too.
Yeah, and remember that this is an emerging market, right? The reason why we're doing this summit is because this is the beginning. No one's behind yet on the cloud. I wish more manufacturers would step up and join the cloud party for lack of a better word, because I think that's going to accelerate our industry. It's also going to bring us up to a different level of professionalism, Ron. Here's a quote from an actual customer. I'm done being the weatherman. I can't manage endless AV cloud platforms anymore, and the AV industry keeps falling behind IT. Why can't I manage AV the same way I manage IT in the open space platform standard? Do you relate to that, Ron?
Yes. That's an easy one. Yeah. You know, I relate that statement and your question to what Eric was saying a moment ago, because we were talking a little bit about Intune, but I'm more interested in MTRP, and actually had an opportunity to ask Ilya at Infocom a couple of years ago. It's like, what are your plans for MTRP? Do you see yourself in that space commercially? He said, what I really want to do is be able to not just define, but help my customers control the experience itself. And whether that platform is owned by the UC platform, which is the 800-pound gorilla, or it's owned by an integrator, which I think has platforms as a way to sell managed services for a revenue stream. That's the real point of integrators having them, or it's something like an Xyte. It's ultimately about how can I keep the experience going? How can that experience be what I defined it to be? And how can I do that simply without going into 17 different places? So yes, Gary, I don't know who said that to you, but oh yes, I relate.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting, Scott, because we have end users saying, yes, we want this. They literally are all saying, yes, we want this. We're not ready totally yet to deliver it. And we have manufacturers that are stepping up. But it's kind of ironic. Like we're in this space where this is kind of cloud has kind of caught everyone by surprise at how fast this has sort of evolved, especially the penetration of Xyte and the fact that they can work with anyone. But I'm curious, Scott, I appreciate you nodding, Eric, because your opinion there is greatly appreciated. But Scott, I want to start with you. What is your ideal cloud platform in your eyes? If you could design it perfectly in your eyes, because you're in the middle, you have to deal with end users, you deal with integrators, and manufacturers are constantly asking your opinion on things. So I'm starting with you.
All right, we'll start with the table stakes of a single pane of glass, one place to go to see it all. You can click in by country, by city, by building, by floor, by room, see all your assets and go, this thing is amber. What's going on with that device? I would say the second thing is something that IT security is going to look at and go, oh, so it adheres to this, 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 and this. We're all good. That looks something familiar to me. I think when we talk about, ideal and crystal ball, back to something Ron said, maybe not interoperable, but aware of each other. So for instance, let's say a piece of equipment goes down in a room. Well, that room is a bookable asset. If that equipment failure is significant enough, shouldn't it send a flag to the room booking software to say, take this room offline for future bookings, and send an email to the person responsible for booking to say, there's something wrong in this room that you may want to know about. So let human beings do what humans do best, which is make a decision, but have these systems be intelligent enough that you can put the hooks in them to do the smart thing quickly, so you don't keep booking a room that's going to be out of service because the video wall just died or something.
So Eric, do you agree with all of that? And would you add anything onto that? And I ask you that because, by the way, we're not just talking about collaboration systems. We're also talking about everything AV potentially. The cloud's not going to be just used in MTR rooms, but it's going to be used everywhere else as well. So I'm curious what you would add on to that.
Sorry, Gary, who is that question to? Was that to me?
To you, to you, Eric.
Yep. No, I agree with that. What's going to happen? Here's the thing. Lens, what Legrand's doing. they're adding value to the product by using software, right? But the thing is okay, so where are you hosting yours? Azure? Where are you hosting yours? Amazon? There's got to be something out there. This is where Xyte kind of does come into a play, right? I got all these things going into these buckets. How do I interconnect between where their data stores are to get back here, right? So, security wise, we can manage that pretty well. You can create a network that's capable to go out and spit out the data that's not touched anywhere else, not suggesting air gap, but there are ways to manage that on that network. But there's not a way where you got all this useful data that is being collected in these places, and maybe that's adding value to my client because I like to do that feature, right? To get to that single pane of glass. The hardest part about it, and if you're going to develop your own, and where they're at, or at least got the manufacturers on the same page, is how do I get Legrand's cloud to spit me out data that's compatible with, maybe I want something from the Pro Portal that's over here on UC on my single pane of glass. And because all this is happening outside in another cloud, I'm kind of relatively safe with that, right? So there is some uniqueness there I look at it not as remote managing, but more as I can build a custom dashboard that I want and that I need at that time, right? And you're going to have kind of what Dante did, what NDI did, a single party to come in and go, look, we are going to pay a little bit of money in here to be able to do it, but it works. And here's the value then out of it. Now, does the client pay for it per monthly? Does it get included in the costs? Those are some interesting conversations to have on there. But that platform to be able to build from the different places that the individual manufacturers are holding is probably something more of an immediate need, versus some of the things I was talking about that are coming down in the future. We got to keep an eye on.
The way we've done it so far has been the way we've done it the whole time I've been in the industry, which is that build it into the product and charge more money for the product. So that the cameras with NDI cost a little bit more than cameras without NDI. The switchers with Dante cost a little bit more than the switchers without Dante. And I feel like that is the reason why the manufacturer is the critical component here. And Pam, I'm going to throw this back to you because I don't see it being as easy as saying it's $20 a month and you buy a seat license and you're done with it. I think the manufacturer is going to have to drive this and build it into the products and make it available because we have a history of not buying software very easily. And as this is emerging, I think a lot of manufacturers who are out there who might watch this probably would heed your advice. I'm curious, you've adopted it. We're going to see it adopted across the entire Legrand AV product line at some point in time. You're doing it, brand by brand, but do you agree with that synopsis? And is that why you're doing it?
Yeah, I agree with you today. And so I want to allow some license to be perfectly wrong on this because there certainly can be some value to some subscription modeling. If you think long term, there are a number of other industries. HVAC is an example. Scott, as Scott was talking, I was thinking that's the check engine light for your HVAC system, right? Like that's what we're looking to do. And we're a little bit more complex because of some of the different protocol integration, cloud. Like I get that. But I think the short answer, Gary, is yes. Within the product, I think that's the model that feels most familiar. And within how we think about what, quite frankly, is going to be easiest for our AV integrators and some of our, like what can be best for all today. But as this evolves, I anticipate that there will probably be variation in exactly how this looks at the end of the day. And the evolution of what the value of the manufactured product is really what we're talking about here, because we're migrating from bent metal into smart bent metal into and we're just not quite there yet, right?
I actually one day got an email from one of your divisions that got upset at me for calling some of your stuff bent metal. So you're saying it now.
Don't get me
so I'm going to go back to saying it every once in a while. Ron, I'm going to give you the last word. If you could have one thing today that's about what we've been talking about all day, if you could have one feature, one thing today, right this very moment, what would that one thing be?
standard way for every manufacturer to say, okay, here's how you can simply have my heartbeat.
All right. Well, look, that's a perfect segue into bringing Andrew Gross on. Before I bring him on, I want to thank the panel because he's going to show you exactly how to do that. Ron, I hope you stay on and watch this. I know you've already seen this demo, but maybe not the latest version of this. Ron, thank you very much for your time. Look, we know your time is extremely valuable, and we also recognize you as an industry leader. So having you on here has been invaluable, and I appreciate you taking that time. And kudos to whoever your marketing people were that set you up right there at that moment in time, because that was killer branding. Eric, I cannot believe that you have the best bandwidth on here and you're in a hotel.
I know.
So I want to know what hotel brand that you're going to. Where are you staying, Eric? What hotel
Chase
brand?
Park Plaza in St. Louis. So
Oh
I highly recommend the internet.
Well, that's incredible. But Scott, man, you and I have known each other a long time. I'll never forget that bus ride into down when we were in Switzerland, wherever the Zurich.
Yeah.
The first time
Yeah.
ISC was there. The first time we kind of got to really know each other, and it's amazing how far you've come. Very proud to see you as the leader that you are in the industry, and thank you for serving as the president of Avixa those years, because you made a big difference. And Pam, welcome to the industry. This is a crazy industry, and we need your diversity in this industry as much as anything. The background that you have, where you came from, with the industry that you came from, and being in this industry and serving us is going to serve us all really, really well. So thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
I appreciate all of y'all. And I'm going to bring on Andrew Gross. Andrew's been in the background spying on all of this. And Andrew, I gave you a shout out. You didn't even acknowledge my shout out. I mean, you are Mr. Cloud.
Yeah, you're treating me too nicely, Gary, but I appreciate it. I was listening to the panel obviously the entire time, and I think it was incredible, everyone, just kind of their insights on it, because where else do we get everybody from everyone that touches an actual AV job all in one place to talk about what's new, different, and needs to be done in this industry? I thought it was fantastic.
Look, I want to also say congratulations to Andrew, because he is not getting in the analog world a lot of cloud, because he has a new baby. So therefore we know he's not getting much sleep, and yet he's here on this session. Congratulations to you to being a brand new dad and all that comes with that, the work as well.
Yes, thanks, Gary. But I make time for this, that's for sure. Always for you.
All right, good. Well, look, you're going to do a demo for us, and I'm going to kind of hang out and watch this and ask you questions and help ask the questions that other people are asking of you as you go through this. And then after Scott, we're going to go through those case studies one by one. So stay tuned with us. Scott, I'm turning it over to you.
Yeah, so
Gary, sorry, Andrew, I'm turning it over to you. I just said Scott. Why did I say Scott?
If Scott wants to jump back on, he's always welcome. But thank you, Gary. And even before we do a discussion of like the how and everything, I do want to actually summarize a little bit about what we talked about today, because I was listening in, I took some notes, and I think it was incredible. Again, what an amazing opportunity to hear from all four members that touch an AV job, but also visionaries of where this industry is going. And Scott, you mentioned that UC has brought about this dynamic need of constantly understanding what's happening in the space, right? So that constant heartbeat. Eric, you talked about standards. I think standards is the key here. I'm actually going to talk about that in a second as well. Pam, from a manufacturer standpoint, about bringing value and actually making your metal smart. I love that. I am going to use that, even if it is going to throw you under the bus a little bit. But and then Ron, I think you made one of the greatest analogies here, because I'm going to return to it in a second as it relates to a dashboard. And we all think of this dashboard when we think of cars, right? And what you said there was really interesting, because if you think about your own car dashboard, how annoying would it be if I had to go to the mechanic every time to check my oil, to go to the tire shop every time to check the pressure on my tire, and go to the electrician every time I wanted to check if my radio was working? I may go do that, but give me a dashboard to understand it before I go. And I think this is a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about for 15 minutes today, which is the trends that we are seeing in the industry. And I'm going to really boil this down into three main trends. But before we do that, what I want to do is, we heard from the experts, but just this summer, actually just a few months ago at InfoComm, Xyte and Ray, we walked around the show floor in Vegas asking just that same question. What is this industry looking for in the cloud? So before I summarize my trends and a little bit about the panel that you just saw, I do want to share some snippets of us canvassing the show. So here's a quick pulse of the industry.
For AV devices, I feel it's very important so that we can maintain them and do maintenance right away to provide a good customer experience for the people in our rooms.
Efficiency. It's just that simple. Allows for the remote content to be observed in different locations.
It allows us to be proactive and making sure that we have uptime as much as possible.
Cloud monitoring is important to the AV industry due to the centricity of having all of your devices in one central place.
Remote management is great because you'll be able to respond to your clients a lot faster. Instead of them waiting for 4 hours for you to get to site, you can respond to them within 10 minutes.
You need to understand what's actually online and offline for support purposes. You know, it's a way to get feedback from the devices. Plus, you know, you need to update them, see what firmware they're running, for example, get inventory.
For remote support and quick response times. So it gives installers the ability to manage many sites and remote sites without sending engineers out. They can keep tabs on the equipment and the status and health.
Convenient and instant access.
The ability to keep tabs on your system, whether or not you're actually in the presence of said device. So if you have audio streams, AES-7, Maddie, Dante, anything like that, you can actually kind of keep tabs in them as they're going through your system.
Easier access and information. I'd say to keep customers happy because you can answer their problems immediately.
I think for sure it's definitely the future. You know, it's where things are headed. It makes sense because I think everything in general, cloud solution wise, is going in that, as I said, direction.
So clearly this was, maybe it sounds a little redundant, but there's clearly a trend, right? I mean, there's this pain about access to the cloud. There's a need to be able to get understanding of what's happening in your spaces, but also an opportunity for integrators and manufacturers alike to kind of bring this more value aside their hardware. Yeah, people want to gather data. They want to remotely support devices. They want to deliver better customer experiences. And best of all, it involves everybody, right? As you heard from Pam, Eric, Scott, and Ron. And all are clearly in agreement that this AV cloud is needed. But I want to get into the details now of the how, why, and where. So in preparation for this event and obviously listening to this panel, I personally actually went out and spoke to hundreds and the team, if not thousands, of industry experts, current customers, some of the panelists, obviously. And I asked them this same question. And I want to boil it down to three main trends that I found in this research. And the first trend is the clear cloud for all. And I'm kicking off of this one because it may be the most obvious, yet it's actually the hardest to execute. You know, everyone says, of course, I want a cloud for issue detection and management and monitoring, better efficiency. But the AV space, this industry is an integrated one. It's a complex integrated value chain. So a cloud for one, meaning like a manufacturer cloud, a specific dealer cloud, an independent IoT cloud is just that, really. It's just one cloud. However, what we really need to benefit this industry, and I heard this from the panelists, is it's a cloud that threads between all members of this value chain, something that actually brings clear value to each step in the process, visibility to each participant, and ideally collaboration through the cloud. But this collaboration means multi-brands, multi-manufacturers, multi-dealers and integrators, multi-consultants and end users, full cloud interoperability, a true single pane of glass for remote monitoring and management. So finally, we can move from devices now to rooms. The second big trend, and I didn't hear this a lot on the panel, but this came up a lot in our research, was a clear and renewed focus for green initiatives and sustainability. And I know you may not think about it at first and how the AV cloud can support this, but it does so very well. You know, the immediate answer is, okay, I can, cut down on my flying or driving or train times between buildings and job sites to support devices when you can do more remotely and in the cloud. While that's great for system integrators and users, I actually think for manufacturers, and I know Pam, you kind of touched on this a little bit actually, this is a huge sustainability metric that you can unlock with the cloud. And I've spoken this many times actually with you, Gary, and I know you've done sessions on this for years, and of course everyone immediately goes to AV as a service, right? But it's not the way you think. I'm not talking about rooms in a box, because we've seen that kind of never really get off the ground, right, Gary?
Yeah, it's definitely it's something that everyone's talked about for a long time, and it was one way to sort of dumb down systems so that you could be in control of everything, because you knew exactly what was in there and what was likely to go wrong. And then you have this database of FAQs, but also a database of problems fixes. But the truth of the matter is things like the pandemic destroyed that, because, you know, delivery issues, right? We had to switch brands because we couldn't get products, and constant upgrades, little small things, you know, where all of a sudden control was done a different way, or the way the product operated was completely different. Stupid stuff like having, you know, a brand have a discrete on and off, and all of a sudden the next generation, it's a toggle on and off. So you didn't know if the product was on or off. And you didn't even understand why that change actually happened. Those things did have a big impact.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that AV as a service isn't a great path forward, right? It's gonna be here sooner or later. So one is set yourself up for it when it is gonna get here, and obviously a standards-based cloud is gonna help you do that. But I wanna take a quick second and talk about what can we do today, right? I know even when I was talking to Ron about this, who was on the panel, he was like, look, these are great big picture items, but like, I got problems today to solve, man. You know, you can tell me what's happening in 5 years down the road, be that visionary, but I need stuff to happen to me and my spaces and my meetings better now. And I think one of the great ways, specifically around sustainability, is reduce the need for replacing or trashing hardware unnecessarily. And by doing that, and Pam kind of alluded to this, is focusing on a software-defined experience for your hardware. That can mean licensing, entitlements, feature enablements, premium upgrades. All of this can be done through software. This industry already has the best hardware in any industry that I've seen. So let's now redefine it and enhance it through software. Make the hardware that you're selling the worst it'll ever be on day one when it's installed into your job site. And I want to compare this to another industry. I know Pam saying she comes from security, and we mentioned the auto industry a little bit on this dashboard idea, because Tesla has done this perfectly. And when we talk about dashboarding and in legacy hardware space, the automobile industry comes up immediately. They took a legacy industry and turned it on its head through a software-defined experience. What they did is less turnover, higher customer retention, and now some of the greatest sustainability metrics, and I'm not talking about because they're battery-powered cars, but because their cars are on the streets longer and being supported and improving because of that software-defined experience. Some quick numbers for you. I found this fascinating. Outside of Tesla, the highest customer retention rate in the auto industry is Toyota. It's a 50% customer retention rate. Tesla's is 90. That is a software-defined experience that's going to keep your customers, and help you bring sustainability metrics along the way. Gary, you're muted. I know you want to say something.
Sorry about that. I didn't mute myself, but all of a sudden I was muted. But that's what software is like. But I want to mention that because, like, look, this Tesla thing is incredible. I hate the way those cars look. From the outside of the car, but in the inside of the car, it is amazing. But the truth of the matter is you sit on the inside of the car. And I will have to say one thing that I think, if you have never looked at it, if you've never really seriously looked at a Tesla, the software upgradability and control of that car is stunning to me. I was in Vegas a few weeks ago, and I rode a Tesla where the driver said, "Are you okay if I use the auto pilot feature?" And I was like, "I've heard about it, but I don't know if it works or not." He drove me to where I was going to go completely without having his hands on the steering wheel. And I can see why the adoption rate, or they have a 90+%, because you see a feature like that and you fall in love with it, and you wonder why every other car manufacturer doesn't have that functionality, and yet they're able to upgrade and continue to improve it over time. And we can't figure that out with a PTZ camera. It is weird that they can do that on that level, but we can't figure out how to keep a PTZ camera upgraded well enough that it will track a presenter. So there's some irony in that, I think.
I mean, Gary, don't worry. I don't think anyone looks at an AV over IP HDMI switcher and says that's a beautiful hardware, but it gives you an amazing experience when done right. And I think software can help with that.
It can, yeah. But keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No, I love
run
it.
into your conversation.
But because honestly, this conversation, it brings me into our third and final trend that I wanted to summarize here. I mean, it's the, I don't want to say the obvious one, but it's also kind of the hush hush one, but it matters. And okay, Andrew, it's great. How does this all make me money, right? I mean, we're all in business here. We all have to run a business here. And if I'm going to adopt something and I'm going to move towards something, I need to see the returns. So as we discussed, customer retention, incredible opportunity there for generating increased revenue. But what else? Well, in fact, a lot of those sustainability activities, they also increase your revenue, generate new revenue streams, or ideally, especially for end users, reduce costs. And so since we have a diverse audience, I know listening into this, I do want to break it down for each. And obviously for manufacturers, completely new revenue streams are now opened up through aftermarket sales and licenses and upgrades. All of these are contributing to customer retention. For system integrators, like what Eric was talking about, this is finally now a way to materialize your service contracts. You can make them tangible. You know, previously they were a contract I just signed, and then hopefully it meant my stuff was working and kept up to date. Now, through a single cloud standard, you have a way to visualize it and materialize it to your customers. And especially for end users, while you may not be making money off of a cloud standard, you absolutely are going to be saving costs. All of this from like a less need to travel for site visits and replacements, but reducing downtime and increasing efficiency is where this cloud for all really comes into play here. So where does this bring us? I want to get back to that challenge, which is this multiple screen. Sorry, Gary, you want to say something here?
Yeah, I want to reiterate that. I think that you jumped over a point that needs to be reiterated. One of the problems with a remote management contract is that it is completely an intangible. And if nothing's happened, there's an assumption that everything is fine, even though it may have actually been fixed behind the scenes. So and we have some amazing salespeople in our industry. And if I put this in front of them, they can sell it. But if I put this in front of them, a lot of them have a hard time selling it, because if it's not tangible, and that's why they leave it off. They tend to leave it off, or they tend to add remote management after the fact, maybe even after the customer's gone over budget. So in the case where they've actually purchased it, in the case of a cloud management platform, you do have a tangible piece that disappears if they don't purchase it. And so therefore they have this sort of FOMO thing going. And I'm constantly writing about the updates that you're doing to your cloud management platform, Andrew. And I will just put this out there. I'll challenge all the other manufacturers, because I've written about all of them. Scott, you know this too. I've written about all of these cloud management platforms. And the only time I've written about them is when they introduce them. They almost never tell us about any updates, because they almost never have any updates. And that's a big problem with the manufacturers. They're in the business of making projectors. They're not in the business of making a cloud management platform. So therefore, they don't have a good cloud management platform. And I'm not going to call it any brands, but I think we all know that's what ends up happening with the brands that aren't investing in this, or they're just doing it for their own management system and not for the industry as a whole. So I think that needs to be restated there, because you do have the ability to take something away. So I think in Ron's case, he sees something more tangible when it is a pane of glass sitting there that is layered on top of everything else that it is controlling.
Yeah, I love that analogy. And I'll even bring up the instant gratification, right? I'm happy to sign these service contracts with my integrators, but what do I get from it tomorrow, or today for that matter, after signing? Now we have that answer, right? And we can do that through a platform that materializes and tangibleizes that contract. And so we've seen a bunch of manufacturers begin to build their own, and I love it, right? This is the generation, the foundation of everything that we've been talking about to even allow us to have this conversation today. From every individual soundbar manufacturer to control system manufacturer to mic and speakers, building that cloud foundation has been the only reason that we can even get on here today and say, all right, great. We're at a state now where we've gotten to the cloud somewhat. We need more. Everyone's got to jump on board, but we've got the train rolling. But now we need to draw a thread between them all. It's the only answer to bring this to the market properly. And where this brings us is that I've taken this research and I started to think, how do we turn it into action? And if you think about our industry, and Eric was talking about it, we are an industry of standards. And it's for good reason. An integrated market, a complex integrated market, needs standards to ensure interoperability, easier specifications, guaranteed operations, all of that. And so from Dante to HDBaseT to SDVOE and tons more, all of them have contributed to better outcomes for manufacturers, integrators, consultants, and users. And I really am proud to say that we ideally here at Xyte are leading that next frontier into the adoption of an AV cloud standard. Finally, a unified platform for all with value generation and collaboration across everybody within the chain. It's something that supports green initiatives from AV as a service to software-defined experiences of all around the amazing hardware in this industry and customers are currently installing in their spaces.
Well, and I think this should not be overstated. You're also not in the car cloud business, and you're also not in all sorts of other industries. You are squarely looking at the AV industry and how that you can help our industry specifically, which is what I got excited about. Because I had seen other versions of this come from big companies like Honeywell, as an example, where they do building management. Oh, by the way, we can manage AV stuff, but they don't have they don't have the people to keep up with all the. I mean, like I could ask Pam right now. I bet they have 10,000 SKUs. I bet they have something like 10,000. I'm gonna guess something like 10,000 SKUs because they've got, I don't know, 8-10 companies. Each one of those companies with anywhere from 200 to 500 to maybe even 1,000 pieces, and I think that our industry is ripe for something like this. I want to bring Scott on if we can bring Scott on because Scott is still in the background watching, and he was the president of Avixa, and I want to know, having served in that role, I want to know what his perspective is on, how do we get Avixa involved in this? How do we get them? Because I get the association has to be an independent voice here, but right. There are no other options. Right. No one else has stepped up and said we're going to do the cloud too. How do we make this bigger than just us?
For all the right reasons, the AV industry wasn't the first mover here, right? Because integrated systems are complicated, multi-vendor, all the things we talked about earlier. So the second mover advantage is to do it right the first time, not skin your knees and go through all the iterations. Because it's inherently an industry problem, not a manufacturer problem, that's why trade associations like Avixa exist. And I was on the board for 10 years. Gary was on the board. Definitely back in the day when green buildings became a thing, I raised my hand and said, let's do that. When smart buildings became a thing, we had a task force for that. So this is the kind of thing that trade associations are specifically built for, so that we can get to a common open platform, so that we don't have 17 clouds that our clients, Ron and team, have to manage. So I would call on the industry to step up again, like you have for the last 50 years, and make this a priority, because it's becoming where our industry is going. It's a software-defined industry. And I've been driving Teslas for 11 years, and you should try Rivian, Gary. But we've got to become that level of industry.
You're the second person that has said that to me in the last 10 minutes. So yeah. I'm going to have to at least take a look at it. But their truck looks like my Tonka truck that I played when I was a kid. It's like a big
part of the
square. I don't know. Enduring charm, maybe retro charm. Pam, how close was I? 10,000 SKUs. How close was I? Seriously.
You are underestimating significantly.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
yeah.
It's even more.
I was sitting here going, tens of thousands. Yes.
Yeah. So the issue there, Pam, is the fact that since Xyte comes from the AV industry, they have the people that are just going to keep up with the AV products and be able to add all those SKUs as you turn bent metal into controllable bent metal, for using your term. the truth of the matter is the time is now. And I think, honestly, Pam, I think that you're going to be a driver in this because you are at the helm of a big company, but also I think people in the industry are watching you, and I think you could help us with Avixa and bringing them along. Scott, don't you? I mean, I think Scott
Absolutely.
would agree with that. Pam, I think you have a great opportunity to take a leadership role here.
Well, thanks. No pressure, but
Yeah.
No pressure.
Well, and one interesting thing that's what was mentioned in the panel is we don't have to jump in with 50,000 SKUs immediately in this
Yeah.
fully functional environment. We're looking for off on, right? Like let's baby step into where we can eventually integrate to and increase value as we go and define what that value is.
Exactly. So this is a perfect segue into our first cloud, it's for our first case study with Xyte, because it is Legrand and Legrand. Pam, will you correct me for once and for all? Is it Legrand or Legrand? Which one am I doing wrong?
Well, we are very French, so it's actually Legrand, but it sounds very fancy, doesn't it?
That's
so I'll
what
never
I've been
correct you.
saying. I've been saying that, and so, but in any case, Legrand and Legrand AV, and we're gonna show you a case study of exactly how they've integrated it, and we're gonna go through some other manufacturers as well: Atlas IED, Planar, Symmetrics, Wirestorm, as well, and a couple others. So let's first start with Legrand AV. And Pam, again, thank you for joining us. Scott, thank you for joining us. Andrew as well. So check out this case study.
All right, greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome. Hope you enjoyed the panel with our own Pam Hopple on there. It was very enlightening. So today we're going to talk about Legrand AV's implementation of Xyte, which is the Racklink Cloud. Quick introduction for myself. My name is Shane Roma. I am the product manager for our power products here at Middle Atlantic Legrand AV, including our Racklink products. If you want to know what I look like 5 or 6 years ago, you can see that here. See how much COVID has aged me. It's 5 years ago. Looks like it's been 10 years, but we're not here to talk about what's out of our control. We're here to talk about what's in our control. And what is in our control is the power of your AV system through Racklink Cloud anywhere in the world. So just a quick kind of debrief on what these are so you can have some context as to the dashboards we're going to talk about today that we're going to show that is available through Racklink Cloud. Racklink is a series, or Racklink is really, Racklink enabled products are a series of IP intelligent power distribution units and uninterruptible power supplies. And what they do is they allow you to go in remotely to do things like turn outlets on and off, or be able to look at the power health of the system. So think of a scenario where something goes wrong at a client site many miles away, or maybe you've got behind a display, something froze up, the ability to turn those outlets on and off without needing to physically be there. So if you've ever had a digital equipment freeze up, what do? You unplug it and plug it back in. This allows you to do that from anywhere. And to take that a step further, Racklink Cloud will allow you to do that via the cloud anywhere in the world. So instead of needing to be on site, instead of needing to be on that local network in order to communicate with the devices, Racklink Cloud will now allow you to go in and turn those outlets on and off and see the health of the power in your system from anywhere in the world. So that allows integrators or end users the ability to quickly diagnose, troubleshoot, respond to issues, or even see issues before they happen. So what we're going to talk about today is how we've laid out our dashboards here at for the Racklink Cloud. So what we've done is we want to make sure that all of the information is available at a glance. These products can do quite a bit. So how do we make it so the right information is available to you when you need it? And really, we want you to get in and out. If we're doing our jobs right, you're spending the least amount of time in here as possible so you can get to fixing your system. So I'm just going to show, this is actually a live implementation of Racklink Cloud. So we're going to go in here and we're going to pull up one of our devices. And I'm just going to highlight a few things that we've done with the dashboard. So you can see it's very simple. It's intentionally simple. We put a lot of effort to make sure it was as simple as possible. So you can see we're pulling things like the voltage. We're pulling things like our current and overall power. So you can make sure that that looks good. Under voltage is a big issue. And then the big thing is you're able to turn outlets on and off remotely and get the live feedback as to what the status of those outlets are. So we can go and we can cycle power, we can turn an outlet completely off, and you can do that at the click of a button. So you go in here, you see the devices, and hey, which outlet is which? Well, this is another feature of the dashboard that we have, is we're able to pull telemetry for things like outlet naming. So we can go in actually through this, we can see this configuration here. This allows us to go in, we can go to our outlet settings, and we can change these outlet names so you can know exactly what products are in there. And to take that one step further, this is bidirectional feedback. So this is going to push it to the PDU or vice versa. If you already have a product set up with the names already set up, that's going to feed into it as well. So this is something, again, we worked very hard on and partnered with Xyte on for these widgets to make sure it was as simple as possible so that you can get in, quickly see what's going on in your system, and quickly react to it very easily. So I mentioned we have two different types of products. We have the power distribution units, and we also have the UPSs. So that was a PDU. What does a UPS look like? Well, one of the features of the dashboard is that we can create consistency within these products as well. So if we go into the UPS, we can see, hey, this looks exactly the same. And intuitively, I know what I need to do in order to make this system work. So if I want to cycle the power, I do it in the exact same way. And that's some of the power of Racklink Cloud through Xyte, is we get to create these dashboards that are consistent throughout all of our products. And we get to add things such as battery level and things that are unique to it. But these are critical things that make your lives a lot easier. So that's really all I had for you today. Just really wanted to show off our dashboards, really wanted to show off how we can make everyone's life easier, and how by partnering with Xyte, we were able to get these dashboards set up so it would be as easy as possible for you to control the power of your system. How are people using it today? Well, some of the feedback we get from our integrators and our end users is that they've really enjoyed being able to remotely control their power without needing a VPN, right? So I mentioned anywhere in the world. So as long as that PDU can access the internet, or really just access that cloud server, the Xyte cloud server, you can have that ability to do that. We've had a lot of end users and integrators save a lot of time, get out of sticky situations because they can react very quickly to that. And to go back to the dashboards, because it's that consistent experience, they can do that quickly. If they know how to use the PDU, they're going to know how to use the UPS and vice versa. And we've kept it so simple that with these widgets and the way it's set up, is even if you've never used these products before, it's pretty intuitive that you're going to know how to use these products. There's some other things that are integrated into the Xyte platform itself outside of the dashboard, such as space management. So think of, hey, what product is in what room and what building? The Racklink Cloud allows you to do that as well. That's been a big win from our customers. They've expressed to us. We've had many that were using Excel spreadsheets that decided to move into this and are able to manage your systems much better. The good news is that if you have existing products, Premium Plus and UPS products, maybe you bought these a few years ago, a firmware update will enable this. You can get this functionality now. And of course, any new product you buy will come with this functionality out of the box. If you'd like to see more, you can scan this QR code here, and this will have one of our application engineers will reach out and they can demo the product to you live. So keep an eye out for more features as well. We've got a lot more coming. I want to thank Xyte for their partnership and for hosting and sponsoring this summit, giving us the opportunity to show this off. Hope everyone enjoyed the presentation, and hope you enjoy the upcoming case studies from the other Xyte partners. Thanks, everyone.
I think that's a great glimpse of how the AV cloud is going to be used, specifically how great and powerful Xyte's cloud. Xyte has something kind of unique, as we've talked about all day, that it is a universal cloud platform that is right for AV as a service when it becomes available for every manufacturer to offer. So thanks, Shane, for that. Now we're going to go and check out how Atlas IED is using Xyte. This is from Tom Lerman, who's the director of DSP AMP engineering at Atlas IED. Check out this case study. This is from Tom Lerman, who's the director of DSP AMP engineering at Atlas IED. Check out this case study.
Hi, I'm Tom Lerman, director of AMP and DSP engineering here at Atlas IED. I'm excited to talk to you about a special cloud feature we have for our Atmosphere product line, secure tunneling. But before I get into that, you probably want to know a little bit more about our Atmosphere line. That is our commercial audio DSP ecosystem developed here at Atlas IED. It includes products like DSPs, 4 zones and 8 zones, amplification, both standalone and built into our DSP for all-in-one solutions, plug-and-play accessories that are daisy chainable and plug directly into the DSP head end. That includes things like audio inputs, controllers, ambient noise sensors, and paging stations, and a really beautiful software suite that we have. It's a web interface directly on the product. You can access it on a local network. And just a couple of weeks ago, we released the cloud portion, Atmosphere Cloud. And this allows for a lot of really cool things. Some basic features would be the ability to get system notifications. So if you've got an installed system out there or several installed systems out there, you'll want to know as an integrator if there's anything wrong with that. So with our back end, system faults, accessory faults, if something is plugged in that should be but is no longer there, you can get notifications of that. Of course, you can see online and offline status, but also cool things built into our platform like speaker self-test. You know, our devices like this on-wall unit have built-in amplification, so they can power 70-volt systems. And if a cable gets cut during that, our system can actually do a self-test, which measures the impedance across different frequencies. And if it measures outside of that range, it'll create a notification. And that notification is local to that box. But with Atmosphere Cloud, now that notification can be sent up to the cloud dashboard. It can change state, and then the integrator can get an email that something happened. So the customer in this case may not know something is even wrong because some of the speakers are still working, but the integrator knows something is wrong and they can be proactive in providing support. And when they provide that support, they can go to the cloud dashboard, see things like amp channel status, CPU, fan speed, see CPU usage over time. And they have a few controls where they can actually do something to that device, like reboot the device or just reboot the accessories. Sometimes that helps with systems and network problems. They can do things like update firmware. But what's really cool about our offering is the ability to make a change. I mean, these notifications and diagnostics, that is great and provides the ability for integrators to be proactive and see what's going on and do a little bit of poking and prodding to the devices. But what if they need to make a configuration change? We have this great web interface with a great workflow that we've developed over the last 5-6 years, and we want people to have access to that. And that's what the secure tunneling feature is. It allows us to, within the dashboard of that, connect to the device by hitting one of the connect buttons, and then it creates a secure tunnel. This is going back to the Xyte servers, so it's secure, safe, and private. And when that connection is established, you can now open up a new web browser that has direct access to our device. And this is really powerful for us. This allows us to focus on the audio and the control side and the great user interface and allow people from wherever they are to have direct access to make changes there. You know, in just the last few weeks since Atmosphere Cloud has been launched, we've had some really cool use cases. One very simple one is a customer, an end user, wanted their wall controller to have a different volume range. It wasn't going loud enough, and the integrator put a sub-range on thinking that was an appropriate parameter, but they needed it to go a little bit louder, and the configuration change only takes 30 seconds. But the problem is the integrator is in Denver and the customer is in Salt Lake City. So now I've got a choice to make as an integrator. It's an $800 round trip and a loss of a full day. You can allow the customer to be dissatisfied, or you could remotely guide them through how to do it themselves. It's simple, but that's not the impression you want to give as the expert. And you want to be able to have control over their satisfaction. And with Atmosphere Cloud, that is now possible. They can simply log into the Atmosphere Cloud portal, which I'm doing here. and they can see all of their devices. In this case, I'm going to select one that's at my home, and I can see information about it. I can see status. I can do some basic commands, but if I need to go in there and make a 30-second change or change a speaker tuning value or change a schedule, I can do this secure connection to the device. And now you are programming the product as if you are on site. And you can do that across multiple devices, across multiple sites. And this is really powerful for us. And I'm Tom Lerman with Atlas IED. If you want to know more information about Atmosphere or Atlas IED, visit atlasied.com.
All right, thanks for watching that. Now we're going to go to how Planar is using the cloud, and Nari Kwan, who's a product manager, and sort of how they're integrating the cloud specifically aimed at solving problems and giving opportunities to integrators. They're really focused on how Planar can help integrators leverage the cloud to manage their products better.
I'm Nari Kwan, product manager at Planar. Here at Planar, we manufacture LCD and LED displays that go into a wide range of environments, from classrooms to airports, like the newly renovated PDX airport. This is a project we're really proud of because it's in our backyard. I manage several product lines, including Wall Director Cloud. When we set out to create Wall Director Cloud, our intent was to create a tool for customers to manage their displays. Up until now, it was a fairly labor-intensive process to view, control, and troubleshoot. Early in our journey, we realized the challenges of implementing remote monitoring and management. By going to the cloud and pivoting from a tool to a service, we did two things. First, we reduced the friction of adoption. With Wall Director Cloud, we removed the need to buy and set up additional hardware and maintain servers. Second, we made the decision to go to the cloud. It really opened up what we could do. By allowing our partners and customers onto the service, Wall Director Cloud became a platform for us to work together. So now, not only can customers easily manage their Planar displays, our original objective, but we have more information and context to help them should an issue arise. There are three core features within Wall Director Cloud for the AV industry. First is what we categorize as monitor and control. This is the hands-on view available to users. From here, administrators can manage the fleet, see system information, and telemetry data like temperature. Second is our simplified support. The Wall Director Cloud, a customer can open, view, and close support tickets. When a ticket is open, our tech support can run a first pass before contacting the customer, saving valuable time in resolving the issue. Lastly, Planar can control what is out in the field and see which customers and partners are associated with that hardware. And our partners have a similar view for their customers. The intent of this information is to create a holistic view so we can better understand and serve our network. So we created this powerful service. Now what? With Wall Director Cloud, we are changing how we do business in Pro AV. This is how it works today. A solution is developed and an order is placed. The product is sent from us, the manufacturer, to the reseller, then finally to the customer. The challenge with this model is, first, recognizing that there's a lot going on between the relatively few touch points. Second, understanding how we can help throughout the product and sales lifecycle. With Wall Director Cloud, we're closing the distance and working together with our customers and partners. Instead of the reseller left on their own, we're working with them to serve the needs of the customers by integrating our workflows into their managed services. As an example, we're working with one of our top partners on a proof of concept for a financial customer. The customer has hundreds of locations across the country and is looking to standardize their hardware and configuration. During this trial process, we've been able to quickly respond and co-develop solutions as the questions and requests came in because we are on a common platform, with the capability to share information between our engineering and technical support teams. As a result, we shortened the development and deployment of these solutions from 1 month to about 2 weeks. We see the cloud as an inflection point in the industry that will strengthen our value network and create new partnerships, resulting in new business models and opportunities to better serve the customer's AV needs in the future. Thank you.
All right, hope you enjoyed that. Now we're going to head on over to see how Symmetrix, an audio company, is using the cloud with Ben Olswang, who is the VP of Engineering at Symmetrix. And he's going to show you how they're using it to enhance licensing of their product.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Olswang. I'm VP of Engineering at Symmetrix. And today I'm going to deliver a case study of how Symmetrix recently added cloud license management to our new line of AVC digital signal processors. For those not familiar with Symmetrix, Symmetrix was born in 1976 to make tools that deliver brilliant audio quality. As the AV industry has grown and changed, so have we. Today, we create AVC solutions for installations of all sizes, from restaurants to retail to house of worship to transportation. One of our core line of products are AVC digital signal processors like this. These are extremely flexible and are custom configured by our customers for the needed application. This often requires additional functionality that gets added via these hardware option cards for the features that they need. Not every customer needs them, so they add them and purchase them when needed. Now, we recently introduced a new product at Infocom called the Server D100. And for this product, instead of using option cards, we wanted to use software licenses. So these features could be added via software and not have to install an option card. So the question for us in engineering was, how do we implement these software licenses? We looked at the requirements, which included for having our end users and integrators to have the ability to add these licenses at any time via the cloud, and they'd be able to purchase them whether it was the day after installation or 5 years from now. We wanted our integrators to be able to utilize the same workflow they're used to and have the option being a line item on their purchase order. Consultants still need to be able to spec these items as separate line items, and we want this to be easier than it was before. So we looked at a variety of solutions and went with our AV Ops Center, which is built on Xyte. The Xyte platform is already powering our remote monitoring and management solution. So you can see here, our users can see their various devices and where they're installed, how they're all operating, and if there are any problems, and they can handle those incidents remotely from the cloud when they arise. And the Xyte platform had an additional store feature that we wanted to take advantage of, and that's what we utilized to add these capabilities. So now customers can visit the store page and they are presented with the various licenses available to them. There are 4 now for the Server D100. They can choose a license and check out just like you would on any store. It's very easy and straightforward and just utilizes a credit card. Once the license has been purchased and assigned to the account, they just need to assign it to the particular Server D100 they want the license and capabilities on. They click the button, choose the license to enable, and it gets added to the device. Once it's enabled in Xyte, in the cloud, they need to transfer that down to the hardware. And this happens automatically, and it utilizes the Xyte API. So this is a REST API that we take advantage of and utilize. We've already used it for our remote monitoring and management capabilities. So for us, it was just adding a few more calls for the new get license ability. Then the device firmware securely receives a notification of the new night license and enables the corresponding functionality. So the other workflow I mentioned is that we want our sales team to be able to take an order with those licenses at the time of purchase, so they can be ready and purchased at the same time. And this is pretty straightforward. The sales team receives a purchase order. They go into the back end of AV Ops Center and click to create an order. They choose the number of licenses to add. More than one can be added at a time, and they can attach the original sales order for management purposes. And then a shareable code is generated. That code is simply emailed to the customer, and the new license is assigned in the same way, but now they simply add and enter that license code, and the license is added to the product. So very straightforward to handle whichever way the license is purchased. So this gave us the two capabilities we needed, whether purchasing from the cloud or purchasing at the time of ordering the hardware, and consultants can spec these as line items in either case. So it's incredibly easy for both sides. And for us, it was really easy for us to implement. We were able to add this to our existing firmware, especially easily because it already communicated with Xyte, and we were easily able to add it to our internal sales workflow. And it's proven incredibly straightforward for consultants, end users, and integrators to take advantage of. So I hope you found this useful, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.
All right. Next up, we have IMSTS, and they're going to talk about how they're using the Xyte management platform, the cloud management platform, as a single pane of glass to manage not just AV, UC, but also IT products as well.
Hello, I'm Gary Schellhaus with IMS Technology Services, and I'd like to review how we use Xyte for our Foresight Managed Services platform. At IMS Technology Services, we're committed to creating exceptional value in audiovisual systems integration, event staging, project management, and AV managed services. Our goal is to support our companies and organizations with high-quality, creative solutions and a friendly can-do approach. Our Foresight Cloud platform is a big part of how we deliver this value. It enables us to monitor, manage, and repair devices remotely, reducing on-site visits, speeding up response times, and providing a competitive edge. We're also early adopters of Xyte Connect Plus platform, and we're excited to share the ways this technology is helping us raise the bar in how we provide AV managed services. I'd like to walk you through the value we're able to provide using Xyte and the Xyte Connect platform. We'll start by focusing on the features that make our daily operations more efficient, giving us a unified view for clear system visibility and allowing us to quickly identify and resolve issues. First, the single pane of glass. Using Xyte, we're able to monitor all devices and customer tenants in one place. This view is organized by importance and criticality, so we can focus on what matters most without getting lost in multiple screens. Next are the seamless integrations. We've combined both cloud-to-cloud connections and our own custom-developed integrations, which means we don't have to juggle multiple clouds or platforms anymore. It's all streamlined into one system, saving us time and reduced complexity. Fine-tune control. Xyte allows us to create custom commands that meet our specific business needs so we can have more control over our devices and support troubleshooting. Finally, data for our customers. We leverage Xyte's metrics to provide important data that our customers can use to make smart business decisions. This insight is incredibly valued to our customers and empowering our clients with this information that they need to optimize their own operations. Overall, Xyte enables us to deliver a higher level of service and support, making a real difference in how we operate day to day and in the value we offer to our clients. With Xyte's APIs, we are able to create our own library of customized device drivers. These modules are run locally on a third-party control system and use a bridge to communicate with the Xyte Cloud. This gives us the very fine control of the visibility we have of the devices we are monitoring. With these customized device drivers, we can leverage the ability to control them in real time as if we were in the room. With Xyte, this is the impact that we have. It gives us cost efficiency for fewer on-site visits, which significantly gives us time savings and streamlines administrative tasks. Thanks to our ability to monitor and manage all of our customer devices through a single unified platform. Enhanced SLAs. With real-time cloud insights, we can identify issues ahead of time, often resolving them remotely or arriving on-site fully prepared with a solution in hand. And finally, proactive service models. Unlike many in the industry who respond only after an issue is reported, Our cloud-based approach enables us to identify and address problems proactively, often before the customer even notices. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, next up is Wirestorm. Everyone knows who Wirestorm is, and this is Zach Vozlov. I know I never do that exactly right, but he's the Director of Product Development at Wirestorm, and he's going to talk about how the cloud is helping with secure tunneling.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me at AV Cloud Summit 2024. My name is Zach Vozlov, and I'm the Director of Product Development at Wirestorm. And here I'm going to present you how we integrate Xyte solution into our systems, and overall how we provide it to our clients. We call it the platform. We call it Wirestorm Sigma Cloud, and so far it was amazing experience. So we started with our Wirestorm Network HD systems. So that was the first system we put it on the cloud. Basically, the Network HD system from Wirestorm is AV over IP solution. It's basically you have encoders and decoders all over the network. And it was always a challenge to monitor them and to have a live feedback of if something goes offline and if something goes wrong. So that's why Sigma Cloud Management was the perfect solution. And that's why our clients and our end users love it. The thing is, it's not just it provides a secure remote access and management. It also provides monitoring, configuration, troubleshooting, and all the fancy stuff that cloud monitoring managing can provide. The thing is that what we did with Xyte, we made an additional step, is that it doesn't require any additional hardware. It automatically connects. As long as your devices have access to internet, they will be able to send telemetries, and they will be able to provide the full feedback of the units. Also reduce the maintenance cost. It has the system uptime and also the streamlined configuration. That means you can, from the Sigma Cloud's platform, you can configure and control the system from scratch. Also, what is unique is that there is end-to-end control, so you don't have to have additional hardware or additional application to control your system. Everything is done from a single platform. Robust security and scalability is also something that provides you a benefit when you're using a Sigma Cloud Management. Now, core features that we provide is that, as I said, remote monitoring and alerts and firmware updates and management. But what was really unique and what was what we recently released in support with Xyte is that now, using the SSH tunneling, you can access to our system directly. So our control system that controls the whole AV over IP is having a web UI. That means that using the Sigma and using the SSH tunneling, you can directly remote into the controller and have full control and full access to it. So now you don't have to go on site. You have exactly the same experience like you're right on the spot. The last thing I want to talk about is the impact. I want to share with you the case study we did recently. So basically, it's a remote campus AV management. It's a huge campus. We did a large university with multiple campuses all over the place with hundreds of endpoints, hundreds of network HD encoders and decoders across the lecture hall, labs, and the meeting spaces. The AV team spent dozens of hours for troubleshooting these, going to the site, helping the teachers and students to use the system. With the implementation of Sigma Cloud, we achieved 80% of reduction of on-site visit, improved the uptime, and increased the efficiency. So overall, Sigma Cloud AV management was perfect solution, and it is a perfect solution for cloud monitoring and for managing your AV devices. Thank you for having me here.
All right, for our last case study of the day, we're gonna check out TechBox and Jim Reinhardt, who's the CEO of TechBox, and he's going to talk about how the cloud is helping with service level warranties and uptime, specifically in higher ed. I think you'll really enjoy this.
All right. Well, howdy. I'm Jim Reinhardt, CEO of TechBox, and we are the Texas-based pioneers of drop-in AV technology. What's a drop-in, you ask? Just imagine a classroom or conference room built, programmed, and tested in a factory before being broken down for shipping, and then installed by following a color-coded pictorial installation guide. The software is encapsulated in the control appliance and personalized at the final stage of manufacturing. Everything, including the client side of the management system, is built in and ready to use. Even better, our platform software has millions of accumulated operating hours and is highly reliable. We build drop-ins of all size and purpose for education, corporate, and government application. Our largest customer today has an AV plant that encompasses 1,500 classrooms and conference rooms across 10 campuses. That plant happens to be owned by an institution of higher learning, and we've learned a very simple lesson there. The product of a teaching institution is teaching. And if the technology doesn't support the teaching all of the time, someone is going to be unhappy. Unhappy teachers lead to unhappy technology administrators, which leads to unhappy suppliers. We have set a goal with our customers to strive for what is known as 5 nines availability, which means that rooms are working 99.999% of the time. That is a little less than 9 hours of downtime per year per room. We have provided campus level monitoring solutions for more than a dozen years. And in 2017, we introduced Tech Enterprise as a cloud-based multi-campus service. Tech Enterprise 2, due to release in the first quarter of 2025, will be based on the Xyte platform and will help us drive further towards our ambitious goals. Among many other considerations, key motives that brought us to Xyte include robust security and privacy framework, our ability to build and customize hierarchies, our ability to visualize key performance indicators in real time, and our ability to provide customers a simple tool to capture visuals that summarize KPIs across a period of time. The security issue really requires little explanation. Insecure cloud-based tools cannot be marketed in this age. Hierarchy refers both to the ability to rapidly navigate from a higher level indicator to the specific device causing the indication, and the ability of the customer technology professional to adjust their view to their scope of responsibility. A help desk staffer might want to see a building or buildings. A campus director might want to see her entire campus, while the system level executive wants to have the broadest possible view without having to navigate from page to page. We know that a product that takes too much time to use just won't get used. Telemetry is really the heartbeat of Tech Enterprise 2. Based on your level in the hierarchy, the administrator finds real-time indicators of availability. Are all of my rooms working? Uptime, which is availability as a percentage over time. Stability is my enterprise engine communicating with the monitor's rooms in a consistent fashion. Utilization, which is the percentage of the AV plant that is in use at a given time. And finally, plant mix, which are various measures of room types, technology mix, as well as asset aging. And finally, period-based reporting allows the user to select a time window against which KPI data is provided in visual format suitable for staff briefings, board meetings, or even a bond campaign. At a glance, the busy administrator knows if there are issues to address and has a management information system partner to oversee their performance critical AV plant. In addition, they have tools to facilitate reporting and capital planning without walkthroughs and Excel spreadsheets. In short, they can accountably manage their AV plant. Tech Enterprise 2 will deploy in early 2025 with the functionality as we discussed today. This will increase our closure towards the 5 nines goal. The second phase will add a learning element that will facilitate pre-failure intervention and allow us to have 5 nines as a service level warranty. That's the end goal. We're proud to be part of the Xyte movement, and I appreciate the opportunity to tell you about TechVox's use of this important technology. You can contact me for follow-up at jamar@techvox.com. Thank you and good day.
So the great thing about our platform is we're going to wrap up this entire thing and make it available to all of you as an archive. So you'll be able to watch this again if you want, or you'll be able to forward this to your friends. As long as they sign up for a launch account, they can, anyone who's in the industry who is interested in how the cloud is going to be leveraged in the future can use everything that you saw today. So I want to thank our guests for participating. I want to thank you as the audience for participating. Great questions today. And I think this is a great glimpse of the future of our industry. I don't think anyone denies that we're going to be managing our systems using the network. Well, the network includes the cloud. Obviously, the cloud is sort of a fancy name for the internet. But I think also when we take that one step further, we're going to see a lot more of AV as a service coming from the fact that we are able to leverage the cloud the way we're able to leverage it. Hopefully this has been a good primer for all of this. And remember that you're going to get CTS credits for watching this, all of you who watched it live. That will happen automatically. You don't have to do anything. We're going to do everything on the back end of this. It'll take us about 10 to 15 days. And so, yeah, that'll just show up. You don't have to worry about anything to get those. We'll handle that for you. But again, like I said, 10 to 15 days to get that done. And finally, I want to thank you for hanging out here for an hour and a half to kind of cover this. This is a new topic. This is an emerging market, but it's a market that I think all of us agree has a lot of opportunity for us, but also has a lot of ways of kind of making our industry more professional, more like the IT world, and that will help us grow. So thank you very much for joining me. And of course, don't forget, this is going to be archived at launch.com. That's lavnch.com. Everyone, have a great day.